right, so we are back. We're having fun conversations about all things leaders, working with EAs, the reasons why we talk ourselves out of it, why we should be working with an EA. We've had lots of great conversations. Before I recap what we've been talking about, Paige, I am here with you. You're CEO and founder of Base. So tell us a little bit about what Base does. That is, in my opinion, very magical.
Yes, absolutely. So we're quickly approaching our 11th birthday, which is really exciting. And what started as um, figuring out a couple people needed help and putting the puzzle pieces together has turned into this amazing 11-year and beyond journey where we provide leaders, CEOs, founders, entrepreneurs, executives with remote part-time executive assistant support. And along the way, we've built a whole bunch of software that our base EAs specifically use to help support the people that they're supporting. And then also some internal tools to make sure that we're getting the very best matches that we can, because not all sides are created equal. And we want to make sure that we get the best fit, which is really important to us.
Absolutely. And as someone who is working with you, not just as you're a good friend, we've been fellow CEOs together, fellow founders, but like I am a client too. Like I am working with a base EA. She is, it's not overstating it to say that she's changing my life. She's certainly changing this little business that I'm creating. She's maximizing who I am and what I'm able to do. Literally this morning, she drafted a follow-up email that I can safely say I never would have sent ever. Like I would have completely forgotten. And she's like, hey, here's a draft email. Obviously customize it to how you need it. And so she's making me better just by literally being there. And so much of that is because of, like you said, not one size fits all. You found someone who has expertise that both strengthens my strengths and also completely complements where I'm weak. And so, yeah, it's different. Like what you do is really special and it's different. So congratulations on your almost 11 years of doing that. So
Thank you. And it's been such a
yeah.
fun journey over the last, gosh, how many years now have we known each other and been talking about you working with an EA? So it's really, really
I know.
fun to see it come true.
finally, finally, yes. As we've mentioned here a few times, let's see, it's been 5 years, 6 years. I was a VP, I was a marketing leader, I was a CEO. None of those roles did I ever have an EA, and now here I am on my own as a solopreneur. And finally, I listened to you and all of your incredible wisdom and did the thing. And lo and behold, you're right, and it does make all the difference in the world. So here we are, and here I'm telling everybody else to figure it out, get your stuff together, and just get the help you need for sure. So, and that's what we're here to do. So we're going to talk today. If you've missed any of the last conversations that we've had, we started with, let's see, this is number 5. So we talked about, yes, you for sure do need to be working with an EA. We talked about some of like the head trash and reasons that people resist it. We talked about how to find the right EA, which, as you mentioned, is not one size fits all, not just an add to cart. You got to find the right person. What else did we talk about? We talked about how to get started, right? How to onboard. And today we're talking about, great, cool. You have an EA, you're working with an EA. How do you optimize that relationship to make sure you're getting the very best out of it, that your EA is happy and is productive and is able to help them help you. So as we get started with that conversation, what do you see? Let's just like starting with the biggest challenges. What do you see as the biggest reason that EA leader relationship kind of falls flat or doesn't reach this magical potential that we both now know it can?
Yeah. Um, it is almost always one singular cause, lack of clarity, lack of alignment on expectations. We came into this expecting something different on both sides, and we haven't found the pathways to communicate to one another what we both need in this role. Sometimes one side is like, great, they're happy as can be, and the other side is not feeling like their expectations are being met, and then things start breaking down. And it could be the smallest little thing, but that's why we've talked so much about clear, concise, quick feedback being so, so important, because those little things can fester. And then before you know it, you're years in and you're both kind of dealing with a mediocre relationship. So we see that one all of the time. And then we keep talking about fit, but making sure that you're the right fit. This is the really
Yeah.
important one, because sometimes you're just not the right fit, and that's okay. But that's a big part of why we care so much about it, because we've got this huge talent pool of EAs that if it's not the right fit, cool, we can swap you out. We already know all the things you're looking for. But yes, that's why it fails. Assuming you've got the right fit, lack of clear expectations.
Yeah, and I think too, it's easy to, another thing we've talked a lot about is leaders, any role, anyone in any role has a lot going on. Things are chaotic, things are crazy, but especially in, executive leadership or founder type roles, like things are bananas. And I think it's really easy to bring in an EA and just kind of like we can do sometimes with any hire, assuming it'll be some silver bullet, assuming it'll just work itself out, it'll just figure itself out. And I think that working with the right EA, as I have found, if you let them ask the questions, help, be helpful, make recommendations, if you provide that feedback, if you provide the clarity, um, it really can't. That's how this magical, amazing relationship happens. But if you just default to, I don't know, just figure it out, like just get into my email and just do the things, like I think
Yeah.
that's where you can be disappointed. And that's where the EA can probably feel kind of underutilized.
Yeah, I mean, these people are professionals, right? They know what they're doing, and especially if we're looking at a base EA, we've got a whole program for you when you're getting started with your EA that walks you through the, in our opinion, the right way to do it, because there are ways that work and there are ways that don't work nearly as well. But yeah, like trusting them, but also being very, very clear, which first you have to be clear with yourself. I was actually just thinking a bunch about this because internally we have this, we call it an EED assessment, stands for Executive EA. And what we're doing there is trying to figure out what is your leadership archetype and how can we uncover these things about you that maybe you haven't, I'm sure you know them about yourself, but you really haven't been able to articulate them clearly. We can make it very, very easy then to match it with the assistance that we see coming through. And that's on top of all of the information that we get. But it had me thinking about just how critical that bit of clarity is at the start of any level of collaboration. And not just clarity with one another, but clarity about yourself. What are you looking for? What are your strengths and your weaknesses? And this is something I've seen you do. You take it very seriously, and you're investing in this relationship too, and it's, I think that makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah. I mean, when you, on one hand, it's really easy to see why these relationships can fall flat because people are busy, assumptions are made, clarity isn't provided. You think somebody's just going to come in and fix everything, right? That's how any relationship can falter. But it's easy to see. But on the other hand, it's like, but why? Like, if if in the chaos you are given a lifeline, like somebody throws you a life preserver, if you're gonna like flail around and be like, no, things are too crazy, like just grab the life preserver and let there be help. To me, like you said, that's why I have taken it so seriously, because regardless of in roles where I've had a very, very large team or, now it's just me, like, why in the world would you reject that support? And all you need to do is take a hot second, take a step back and say, okay, what am I trying to do? Where could I use some support? And just
Mhm.
give it that space to allow it to be a little easier than it is at the moment.
Right, exactly. I mean, when you are leading a large team like that, you don't have any qualms about hiring for the roles that you need. You see a gap in your department that you need the skill set for that, and other people are trying to fill the gap, but it's not playing to their strengths. And you hire for that. That's a no-brainer. Yet we don't do that for ourselves as leaders, where we have all these gaps and we just say, like, no, it's fine, it's fine. That's the burden that I must bear as a leader,
Right.
and just get through it. And a lot of those things are things that, by definition, most entrepreneurs and especially when we get in the venture backed tech space, a lot of the things that make those CEOs so extraordinary, it probably would make them the worst EA in the world, which means
Yeah.
they shouldn't be doing those things for
Yeah.
themselves.
Yes. Yes. 100%. Um, Not to just like be one big commercial for base, but I love what you're doing. So I think that that is such a differentiator. So to me, telling you about your business, if you don't know, I think one of the things that makes you so special is that you are venture backed. You happen to be a female founder. Like you have 3 kids. You are growing and scaling both a services and a software business. You are global. Like you live in Spain. Like you are doing so many of the things, and that's just you. I mean, like you have all of these people and all of these experiences within your business that give you firsthand experience that and the ability to relate to your clients in a very real way. I mean, like you know what it's like to go raise venture capital. You know what it's like to try and test different versions of the product and launch an MVP. Like you know all of these things. You're not just providing a one size fits all service. You're not like a talent market where it's like, we have EAs, we have people, just go ahead and match right up. Like you are providing something that is so um, customized and so supported because you know how important what you're doing is and what an impact it can make.
Yeah, it matters so much to us. And I think, remember after you finish fundraising and you just finished doing this whole extra job that is not actually part of your job, but it is still part of your job, and you've been doing 2 jobs, then great, you've got that money. Now what? And everybody's giving you advice, and there are all these checklists out there of all the things you need to make sure to do to update your cap table and file these forms. And but what we realize is that there's not really any advice for how does your mindset need to shift. And
Oh
after
my gosh. Yeah.
the each round of funding that we raised, that cognitive dissonance of switching back into my internally focused CEO role and getting back in front of sales and customers, and less so pitching this big grand vision, that mindset shift is so hard. So these are the things that we spend probably an unhealthy amount of time thinking about, is how can we help people in that situation? Because we've seen it time and time again, and I've been there time and time again, of like, cool, I don't need the list of things to do. How can I mentally prepare to get my company to where I just told all these investors and convince them that we're going to go? And ideally, how can you lean on the people in your world, ideally an EA, but the people in your world to help you get there, so that that burden is not fully on your shoulders? Because as we know, when you're a CEO fundraising, you pull people in and it's a team-wide effort, but that sits on your shoulders and it's a heavy burden to bear. So then shifting out of that mode can be really hard. So yes, but we care a lot about that. And we've actually got something coming out for that specific stage. But there are all of these stages in an entrepreneur's life that you're not alone, but it feels alone. And so
Yeah.
this year we're spending a lot of time figuring out how can we, in these various stages that are common, even though they feel so lonely, how can we help you get to that next chapter?
Yeah. That is, again, it's such a differentiator about what you're doing versus literally any other EA support system product service that I've seen, because it's not about, hey, you're busy, let us take some stuff off of your plate. It's your role is crazy. We know it's changing. We know it's evolving all the time. The world is making it harder. Like things are shifting. Like we know we've been there. And so here is a person who is backed by an entire support system, who is here to help you be consistent, to help you grow, to help you stay sane, and to help you do, like you just said, what you just told the world that you're going to go do.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know we've already talked a lot about all the things that a great assistant will do, but what you just said reminded me of such a critical part of what my assistant Debbie does is help me decide what not to do. There's the
Hmm.
like brain dump of here's everything that I need to accomplish. And then she's really good at being like, do you really need to do that? Or if you do need to do it, do you need to do it now? Can you do it then instead of trying to cram it into your already crammed week? So yeah, it's a real secret sauce, I think.
Yeah, I think I know another thing that we've kind of talked about all throughout this series is if you let it, your EA is so much more than someone who can take tasks off your plate, which I think is a very common misconception. They are your internal advisor, right? Like they see you, your hopes, your dreams, your goals, what you're going through personally, good, bad, and otherwise. They see your role. They see the toll that fundraising is taking on you. They know that funding is just about to come in and things are about to get better. Like they know all of these things. They know about the big meeting you have this afternoon. So they know your role. They know you personally. They know your role. They know the company, right? So they have
Mhm.
they're able to observe what's happening in the business, good, bad, or otherwise. And then, as you've mentioned a couple of times before, which I think is really important to focus on for a minute, is they know the team and they have in a very healthy way eyes and ears that you don't, and they can kind of pick up on, like, I think people are kind of freaking out, or I think this thing this project that we're doing is kind of stressing out the marketing team. Might want to check in on them, not in a way
Mhm.
that's gossipy, not in a way that's oversharing, but like a hey, like they're able to be in rooms that you're not, and can kind of be that intermediary, that facilitator. And you take a look at that, and that's so powerful, and that's so much more than, again, going back to optimizing your relationship. If all you see that person is someone who's just going to by default schedule your meetings, schedule your travel, and help you with email, look at all the things you're missing out on.
Yeah, totally. It's easy to do. I've fallen prey to that a number of times. I think at this point I've worked with four, maybe five great assistants, some a better fit than others. And it's hard. It's hard to build relationships and maintain relationships and invest in them professionally and personally. And so it can be really easy to just kind of continue existing rather than stepping back. And that's where I feel like the assistants that I've worked with have been so magical of saying, like, let's pause, let's reevaluate. Debbie and I just had a big one in Q4 of last year where we found so many other ways for us to work together. And I can't even begin to explain what a relief that was. Like, well, wait, we work it out so that those you could help with those things too. And it just like I almost started crying because it was so magical. So just taking the time to invest is maybe feels like extra work, but it's so worth it.
For sure, because it doesn't have to be any one thing. Like, it doesn't have to be, regular in-person conversations. It doesn't have to be lots of emails. Like, it can be whatever it needs to be for you and your needs in that relationship. So
Mhm.
how do you get there? Like you said, it can be tough, especially when you're really busy. You're very remote. Like, your entire team is all over the place. You're in Spain now, which was not always the case. Like, how do you get there? Assuming you're already working with an EA, we've talked about how to get started on the right foot. Let's say you're already working with an EA and you're like, yeah, this isn't what it could be. Um,
Yeah.
what are some thoughts you have about how to kind of get things on the right track?
hmm So always go back to the foundation. Are you being clear? Have you been crystal clear on what it looks like to succeed with you? Have you been crystal clear about what your priorities are, who the VIPs are in your life, everything that you can possibly think of? If you're vague with anything, then you're leaving your EA to put together pieces that sometimes they will put together properly and other times they will not. And so feel like silly going to the level of detail that you're doing because that is the only way that you can set clear expectations, which is the same thing, but also a definite, like its own thing of setting clear expectations, of being really, really clear on like what specifically tasks, projects, logins, decisions, like where do you want your EA to lean in? And where is it really, really important that you have dialogue about it? And if you're not setting those clear expectations with one another, you're going to have a really, really really, really hard time. So let's say you've done that, you feel like you've got the clarity, then you've got to keep checking in with one another. You mentioned
Mm-hmm.
this just a couple minutes ago. It doesn't always have to be this live check-in, or even in person. Debbie and do not see each other in person very often at all, but we do have a weekly live check-in. It's about an hour long. She runs it. She's got this amazing agenda. I know where the agenda is in advance. She preps it in advance. So then I actually go in and I have, we interact asynchronously leading up to our one-on-one. And so we're just ready to jump in and have that conversation. But in between that, each and every day I think I've talked about this in some of our previous sessions. Each and every day I start with just an automated Slack, um, oh my gosh, I can't think of the name of what it is, but whatever, a
Like a
workflow.
prompt
Thank
or
you.
an agenda kind of
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
A Slack workflow where she's asking me, how are you feeling today? What's on your mind? What did you accomplish yesterday? Anything else I need to know about? It takes me 5 minutes, but it's such a helpful, um, way to set my mindset for the day. That it's so valuable. So anyway, whatever that looks like for you, there's no one right way to do it, but make sure that you're checking in regularly and that two-way feedback is a part of that process. You've normalized it, you've got space built into it so that the feedback doesn't feel like it's extra when you do have it, which you will have it. You should have it. If you don't have it, that's a problem. Um, and then the final piece is just like empower. There are going to be some things that you're going to really want to be on top of the details early on. I don't know if you can hear my dog barking. I'm sorry. There will
Nope.
be some things that you're going to really want to be on top of the details early on, like drafting emails. Make sure that that fits your voice and it feels like something you would have said. But once you get that, the empowerment should be the next step. And if you don't feel like you're getting that trust, go back to step number one and work on
Yeah.
clarity and your clear expectations. And it's the pretty simple recipe for success, even though it's not easy to execute.
Yeah. Simple, not easy, especially if you've already kind of started down a path, right? So again, it's one thing if you're just getting started and you're like, okay, I'm going to do this the right way. I'm going to follow all this advice. It's another thing if you've been working with an EA for a month, 6 months, 6 years, and you're like, this is not what I think it should be. Maybe you're starting to realize that clarity is not your strength. What what thoughts do you have about how to get started? Sometimes it can feel a little awkward to be like, hey, do you have any like ideas for how you could help me manage my days better? Like, do you have any advice on kind of like how to start those conversations, how to start being more clear if that's something that you haven't really done a great job of so far?
Yeah. Yeah. If you have not taken the time to really think about what would success feel like to you in this relationship, how do you know it's working? How does it feel when it's just really, really going well? You can write that out any number of ways. Write it out just in bullet points, write it out in free flow. Or some people do spreadsheets where they literally write down everything that they do and break down it. Can it be delegated? Can it be a high level delegation? Can anybody do it? Where you get more of a tactical view of what are the things that are still bogging you down. But until you really know what you're looking for, don't even think about beginning to have that conversation because chances are the EA has felt it as well.
Yeah.
And there's some lack of clarity. But before you can clear things up, you really got to get clear on what it is you want. And that's a harder thing to do than it might seem like, which is why we're rolling out a free version of that EED assessment because we hear about it all the time. Like, there's something I can give you to say, here's how I work well, here's
Yeah.
how I don't. Help me with ideas.
Yeah. Well, right now, I mean, we're at the beginning of a new year. We won't always be at the beginning of a new year, but there's always something new. Beginning of a new month, beginning of a new quarter, beginning of a new half, beginning of a new initiative. And if that doesn't work for you, I mean, hey, I found a new thing. I listened to a conversation between Paige and Lindsay. Whatever it is, I think opening that conversation of like, hey, I'd like to be more intentional about my goals this quarter, this year. You and I were having a conversation yesterday about goals in the year ahead and some tools that you have to help you reflect on your own. And I think just inviting someone in on that, even if you're like, I don't really know, I don't really know what this is going to look like for me, but I would love your help. I think inviting them in
Yeah.
on that conversation and then committing to being open and clear might be a good place to start too.
Yeah. I know I've said it so many times, but I think this is the most intimate professional relationship that can exist. And typically, the EA is all up in all of your business, and that can feel scary and uncomfortable, especially without a good level of trust. So, yeah, get
Mm-hmm.
clear on what you do feel okay with, what you don't, what you want, what you don't want. And then, like you're saying, lean into your EA strengths. Ask them for ideas. You probably already know what some of their strengths are. Instead of just kind of giving tasks here and there with a bit more context, what could they take and run with? Because they're going to be good at things, but everybody has some superpowers. And how can we lean into those superpowers of your EA to let them just run and grow and blossom?
Well, and I think too, you kind of said something along these lines before, but like, um, they are not you. I think that's a good reminder too, is that they're an extension of you and they help you be stronger. But like, if if they were you, if you were the same, like you would be really bad at that job. You mentioned that too. Like some of the very best founders and leaders like would be really poor EAs because that's they're different skill sets, they're different interests, they're different ways that you like spending your day. And so don't like I think keeping that in mind and embracing that and being like they actually want to help me. I have to let them in. I have to let them,
Yeah.
see behind the curtain a little bit so that they can do the things that I either can't or shouldn't. Because
Hmm.
they're not you.
Right, right, exactly. And even if you, as a leader, have all of the characteristics that would make you a great EA, I think I fall into this camp, clearly, having started this business. But I also truly believe that at this point in time, with my current role, I would be one of the very worst EAs that exists out there. And I think Debbie can attest to this because my mind is having to look at it from a different angle.
Yeah.
And so I almost look at it like Debbie and I are in battle. And we actually heard this from a client not too long ago where she was saying that she and her EA have fought back to back like Jedis for the last number of years. And that makes so much sense to me because I'm over here, I'm looking at this viewpoint, and that's where I need to be focused. And Debbie's over here, and we've got each other's back. And so we're casting this huge, wide canvas that I definitely couldn't do by myself. Maybe if that was like where I needed to be focused, I could lean into those strengths. But I would be the worst CA right now. So it doesn't make any sense for me to be doing the things that Debbie is so much better at than me.
Yeah. Also, I think it's been easy for me to assume that Sam, who's my EA, would also not want to do the things that I don't want to do. like, um,
Yeah.
like I have not been good, and it's funny because it's a new realization. I'm not so great at follow up emails. And like I have this whole list of things that I don't really love doing and I'm not really good at. And I either do them anyway or it's the first thing to fall through the crack. And I just assume that Sam won't want to do them anyway. Like, or also, she also won't want to do them. And like, we're going to like, be like, oh yeah, look at those things that are horrible. And she's like, no, I'd be happy to do that. I'm like, really? Yeah. And like,
No.
she does it better than me. She just like is able to hold me accountable to do the things that I need to do. And so I think
Hmm.
not assuming that just because you don't like it or you're not good at it and it's something that you like are constantly putting off or procrastinating about, that that other person, chances are, it's like, yeah, that's what I'm here to do. I'm happy to do it.
No. Aren't
I think
human
letting that be
beings
true.
so magnificent? Like there's a task out there for everybody to get excited about. And yeah, like stop holding on to those tasks. Whatever those things are that are draining you, chances are someone on your team, probably your EA at least, can do things, do them better. So
Yeah.
just like let it go, maximize the access to things so that the tasks can be grabbed without needing to be kind of scheduled and parsed out. We call those the untask. When you've got the right amount of context and access, those untasks just get done, and maybe you don't even notice that they're done, but they still
Mm-hmm.
needed to be done. And that can be a pretty
It's
magical thing
amazing.
when you realize that's happening.
Yes, absolutely. So, okay. So, in summary, you got an EA. you feel like it's not going as well as it could, whatever that means to you in your situation. First step is getting more clear, and possibly also letting them in on more stuff.
Yeah.
Anything else that you would recommend?
Yeah, I think a great place to start, let's say you're ready to have that conversation, ask one another, what would a strategic partnership, what could it look like for us? What would it feel like? What would we achieve? What wouldn't it look like? And that can be a really, really good open-ended conversation for you to just get a sense of how can your strengths really stack on top of one another. Um, that's one of many ways, but we've seen that go really well. In fact, that's the conversation Debbie and I had last quarter of like, what if we're going to start over and look at this? How could it be a true strategic partnership? And it changed everything. So it's a really good place, low risk question to ask if that's where you're starting.
I love it. I think one of the things that I kind of heard you just say is, in part, reframing the mindset. Like, it's not about, I don't know, whatever common, like we talked a lot about misconceptions about an EA, and the mindset really should be, this is a strategic partnership. This is a, like, going to battle together kind of thing. So that changes everything. So, okay. So base is amazing. Clearly, I think so. I think everybody should be working with you. If someone's not already, what is a great way to learn more about base and or possibly even kind of get started in understanding if you might be a fit for them?
Yes, so we're going to drop a URL in the comments where you can go, and it's a specific landing page for this series that we're doing. And we're offering all sorts of perks if you come through this. But even if you just happen upon our website, fill out, there's a contact us form on there, and we'll be in touch right away. And just mention that you heard about us here, and we'll give you all of those same beautiful perks. Which are detailed on the page. But in short, what we're doing is giving you some free stuff if you sign up with a base EA. If you're not quite ready to take that leap, we have this wonderful set of products called resets, where we can just kind of helicopter into your inbox, your calendar, or your cloud, Dropbox, Google Drive, whatever it might be, that like mess of files. Which a fun experiment is to go into your Google Drive and see how many files you have titled untitled, which turns out I had a lot before we
More
did
than
the
I would like
reset
to
on
admit.
mine.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. But a base EA, reset specialist, will do that helicoptering in. They'll understand from you what's important, what's not, and then they will automate it and fly back. So there's no strings attached. It's just a quick spruce up, which is a really, really great way to get you started. And as part of this series, we're offering a buy one, get one free. So if you buy one, you get another one for free, which you can give yourself a calendar and a cloud reset or inbox and do both of them, or you can give a reset to a friend, a coworker, partner. We have a lot given to spouses around here, but whoever it might be that you think might enjoy the benefit of a reset,
Yeah.
especially early on in a new year.
I love you very much. Please get your life together. Yeah, I like it.
Yes.
I love it. Okay. All right. Well, Paige, you are amazing. Your company's amazing. And as someone who has benefited already from what you're doing, like, I can't, like, say it loud enough that I think everybody needs the kind of help that you offer. Everybody deserves the kind of help that you offer. So I hope that everybody goes and gets a reset for themselves and for somebody else.
Yes, likewise. And we feel very much the same about you, Lindsay.
Okay. Well, thanks everybody, and go back and check out some of the other conversations, and we'll catch you next time.